Hey guys, Gun Goober here. Today we're taking a look at the TP9 and trying to fix one of the biggest flaws that the TP9 has inherently, which is the awful trigger. The trigger, as you will know if you have done any research into the TP9, is a 11 plus pound behemoth of a trigger. Originally designed as a machine gun, it has a progressive trigger in the machine gun variant, meaning that a soft pull will give you semi-auto and a full pull will give you full auto. However, this Swiss/Austrian clockwork mechanism in semi-auto leads to a horrendous trigger pull, which would not be tolerated on any gun. The TP9 largely gets a pass because it's super cool, used in video games, and it is unique in its form factor. There's no other modern pistol caliber carbine that will fit and fold down into the form factor that the TP9 does, so a lot of times it gets a huge pass. B&T is manufacturing a new version of the TP9 that comes with a enhanced trigger, but that new model might not come out for a few months or years even, and the trigger upgrades that are coming with that are not guaranteed to be available for the older TP9 models. Thankfully, Gelotti Rifle Works has invented the TP9 short stroke kit. This kit is extremely difficult to get. You basically have to camp out on their website for a restock. I got the restock notification the first time, and by the time I had pulled up the website, they had sold out. The second time I got a restock notification, I pulled it up immediately on my phone and made the purchase. Hopefully, in the coming months, they'll start producing this at a bigger scale, so these will become more available. I filmed the entire installation of this trigger, but unfortunately, a lot of my footage from the beginning was lost. Thankfully, it was only the parts that were dealing with the original teardown and removal of the old TP9 parts, which as a TP9 owner, you might already be familiar with. So for the first part of this video, I'm going to be referencing the instructions that Gelotti gives, as well as trying to do my best to illustrate physically how those things are supposed to happen. But as you'll see by the end of this video, this trigger installation was such a nightmare that there's no way that I'm going to do it in reverse and do it over again. All right, so the first step will be to just disassemble and field strip your TP9. That is done pretty simply. You just take off your suppressor. Okay, first step is to pull this down in the front. Push this in, and you should be able to lift up while also pushing back here. And this is how you disassemble a TP9 normally. And again, unfortunately, like I said, the new trigger is already installed, but the next step is going to be to remove the two springs. So there's one spring here. You're going to grab that with needle nose, like this, then pull forward and up. That's how you get that out. It's so easy. I'll do that for you guys. And then putting it back in is the same thing. Boom. Now it's back in. The other spring that you want to take off before you start disassembling further is the spring here. Let's see if I can focus for it. Is the spring here on the bolt catch. So you lift it up and pull it off, trying not to get it caught on any other part of the bolt catch. So now that would be ready to, you can remove this piece. The way you do it, take some sort of flathead screwdriver, insert it in the front here at this angle and pull up, and then this piece will come out. It's a little bit stuffed in there, so it might take a little bit of finagling. The further pieces after this, I don't really have a good analogy because we're starting to get into the parts that are completely different with the new trigger kit. So I'm going to set this down and we're going to refer more towards those pictures that are given. The instruction manual is pretty good from them, but it's not perfect. So the first thing you're going to have to do after you're done with that stuff is you're going to be taking this pin out. So this is the cross pin that goes between where this this Allen head now goes with the new trigger kit. So it's going to be going in. This is the end that you'll see if you have the weapon in this orientation. And obviously you're going to push it out in that direction. This has a clip on it that you can see here. It's kind of hard to get off. I found the easiest way to get it is by sticking a flathead screwdriver into one of those indentions and pulling up and pulling it out of the receiver. But in the instructions, they recommend the opposite. They recommend facing it this way and pushing down on the top of it with a screwdriver. Once you've pulled that pin out, the next thing you want to get rid of is the trigger bar. So the old trigger bar looks considerably different than the new one. And it is made out of plastic, so you want to be really gentle trying to get that thing out of there. And all I can say is that what you wanted to look for is there's this cutout in the trigger bar, and there will be a piece on the hammer that you will want to line this up. You'll want to line this cutout up with the piece that's on the hammer inside your receiver. And when you pull it out, it's going to be taking a little finagling, but you don't need to force it. You just need to jiggle it, get it a little bit, maybe pull on the back a little here, make sure it's in the right area, and it will come out eventually. You do get a replacement trigger bar, so if you do break this, it's not the end of the world, but I would recommend just having it in case you ever need to send this in for warranty work or something. So just try to be gentle and you'll get it out. It just takes a little bit, of finagling, like I said. Once you get done with that part, the hammer housing will not be held in anymore really by anything. So it might even fly out on its own like it did for me. So you'll take that out. And then now we're finally to the point where we can catch up to the footage that I have from before when I was actually doing it live. And that starts with me taking out the fire control group that you can see up there in the corner. So I'll give you back to the old version of me. Good luck installing the trigger. All right, so the next step is to remove the spring tension from the fire control group that's left in there. The way you do that is by grabbing the spring and pulling it up and out. I'm glad I got that on camera. I hope it was in focus, but it is kind of intuitive once you see it. Put that down. And then this part is hopefully easy. It should just slide right up and out. I'm going to use the flathead to help me jiggle it out a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe I can just grab it. Seems pretty loose. There we go. Set that to the side. And as you'll notice, it is extremely juicy in there. That's why I've got the gloves on. I'm going to clean this thing out and we're going to get back to it. All right, so we've got most of the juicy chunks out of there and we're going to proceed with the installation. Before we get started, let's take a look at what they gave us. So in the package, you get some stickers. Blue Loctite 243. We'll use this later. A new fire control group. This is where all the magic is happening, I'm assuming, making this trigger not be awful. A new flat face trigger. I don't think you can use the other one that I have, this other design. I don't think it'll work, but both of them look pretty nice, so I don't see any problem using this one. A new trigger bar, which you can see is quite different from the original. So there's a lot more different stuff going on here. And of course you get Allen keys, as well as some set screws for everything. And there are some really, really tiny set screws in there too, and we'll go into later what those mean, or what those are for. All right, step one of the new installation is to install the fire control group part here. If you look on the bottom, it's got these two little nub areas, and those match up with these two guys inside of your receiver. So let's install this. I was able to get rid of the gloves now that it's not super duper juicy in here anymore. So that just goes on. Make sure it's seated all the way down. You can see in the back there it's not seated all the way. There you go, you heard it click. Now it's seated all the way down in there. The next piece is the cross pin. The piece after this is going to be the hammer. All right, we're back to having gloves on. All right, because this hammer piece, as you saw, was incredibly juicy, and I was able to clean it off. Nothing a little brake cleaner can't help. All right, and so the way this works is you'll see there's this big spring, that's your hammer spring, and you'll see that leg there. I'll point with the thing. This leg up here is the one that pushes on the hammer, so make sure that that's back. And then this leg back here is going to rest on this little cutout here, and that's what puts tension on your hammer spring. When you're installing this, there are these grooves on either side, so there's this one here and this one here. And that lines up with the grooves on your receiver pin. So make sure that your spring is in the right place. Get this at the right angle. Watch out for this other little guy, this spring here. Make sure that spring is at the right angle and insert your hammer. Make sure that doesn't get caught. The hammer spring is in the perfect spot, and now we're ready for the next step. All right, so your next step is going to be installing the trigger and the trigger bar. This can be a little bit of a pain. As you see, the hammer area wants to come out, but it also is doing it in their pictures, so that probably means it's okay. So you're going to have this trigger bar all the way in the back here, and you can kind of see where it's supposed to line up on that piece back in the back. And there you go. As you can see, that was a little bit of a six-handed affair. So in the bag, you're given a long and a short screw. I'm assuming the long screw goes on the ejection port side. So this is the side with the trigger bar, and the short screw is going to go on the other side, the one that's facing up right now, down here. And you want to start both of these very gently, threading into, they're both going to thread into that fire control unit in the middle there. And we just want to get them started. We don't want to over tighten or anything crazy like that. We're just going to get them started gently. The hammer pocket and everything is going to be fighting you constantly during this, so it's not a problem. If it gives you a little grief, that's totally normal. So there we go. I kind of got this one started, but it's kind of at a weird angle. I don't like. We want to also make sure that our fire control unit hasn't shifted at all since it's been installed in there. You can kind of see how it works with the trigger arm. So I'm looking at this from the bottom here, and it looks like it's going to be a little easier to start on this side. So let me get this side started, and maybe then this will hold the hammer container in place so that it doesn't keep trying to fight me. So that looks nice and started. And look at that. It's not trying to jump out at me as much anymore. And so we can get it a little bit better lined up on this side here. I always find that trying to start these things by hand is probably a good idea, just because then it's like really, really difficult for you to accidentally cross thread anything. As you can see, I'm starting to get a little bit of weird, but yeah, you can obviously see that that is not the right angle that we want. So I ended up finding that having the hammer cocked made it a little bit more easy. That might have been a step in the instructions. I don't have them handy because unfortunately they are black, so printing them out is kind of a pain in the ass, and of course I'm using my phone to record this for you guys. So I got both sides in. It was really kind of just you got to hold your mouth right, and then also having the hammer cocked helped a lot. So now we're going to gently tighten these on both sides. And this should be good enough. We should be able to do a function check now. So let me pull, I'm going to put my thumb on the hammer so it doesn't slam, but I'm going to pull the trigger. And boom, yeah, there it goes. Reset. Obviously it's not going to reset because there's no trigger spring in the front yet. But I'll pull it forward, and there it goes, it reset. Let's put it on safe. They're going to let me put it, there we go. We're on safe. Can't pull the trigger. On fire. And there we go. Nice. So we have functionality. That's good. All right, so I'm going to back these screws out, and we're going to put the Loctite on both of them. Okay, so we're going to use their included Loctite, and it says to be generous. Let's go ahead and saturate the threads with that. It says to use a lot, so I'm doing it. I filled those threads up completely. All right, let's insert this back in the side here. This side was much easier to get in. I'm worried we're going to have some trouble getting the other side back in, but I'm not tightening this fully yet because I want to get this side Loctited and put back in first. So we got our little side screw out. Going to be putting the Loctite on this as well. Trying to get a lot in those threads. All right, same thing. So again, I had the hammer cocked for this the last time, so I'm going to try that again this time. Getting that screw started even off camera was extremely difficult. But hey, I got it back in. I ended up having to push my finger down on this too, in addition to having the hammer cocked. So I'm going to tighten this side. Just going to get it as tight as I can with the short side of the Allen key. Same thing on this side now. Nice and tight. Make sure this spring, while you've been doing stuff, make sure that that spring is still up there where it needs to be and didn't get caught underneath anything. So this is where those little tiny screws go. You can see there are these holes. I'll point it with there's a hole here and here. And that's where these little tiny threaded screws go. And that's going to just make sure that those screws can't back out and walk out over time. You can see how tiny they are. It looks like little dirt. But that's why they give you 4, I guess, because if you drop 1 or 2, you'll still be okay. I'm going to dump them out so that they're easier. And this is the tiniest freaking Allen key I've ever seen in my life. So I'm going to try to just get this seated first. All right, now that that's on there, now I'm going to put the Loctite on it. It said to use a generous amount on these guys too. And then I'm not even going to turn this over. I'm going to bring the hole to the screw as much as I possibly can. There we go. And I'm going to assume that that's pretty much as tight as you're going to want to get it. So let's do the other one. The other one's a little bit annoying because it's got that spring in the way. But let's get this thing coated up too. There we go, that looks like a lot. All right, that's as tight as I can get it. Now let's go do the other side. I didn't tighten it as hard as I could because I was worried about this little tiny Allen key breaking. All right, so now they're both nice and tight. Everything's Loctited in there. Everything is flush with the receiver. And let's get the rest of the springs installed and give it a test. So one of the more annoying springs is probably going to be this one, the trigger spring, but it's not too bad. If you just do it like you did earlier, it'll go back on easily. So what I like to do, grab it like this with the pliers, stick it in, hook over the front, and then bring it up and hook it over there. Easy peasy. All right, the next piece we're going to need to put in is the metal block that has the that this spring uses goes on. So let's go ahead and pull this spring up and out of the way. I'll do it with the thing so we can see. So you can pull this up and on the side there. I think it might still be in the way, but if you look here, then you need to install this piece, and that just goes straight down. And we can have that, you know, sitting proud so we don't accidentally crush our spring in the back. And this is just about getting it lined up right and then pushing it down tight. And there it goes. All right, and then we have this in our spring we have to work with. So let's go ahead and grab our spring. Pull that down. And then we put our spring back on top. Not quite. There we go. All right, so that is now under spring tension. We don't have any extra pieces really sitting around anywhere. So let's put our top back on. This is like another situation where you gotta hold your freaking mouth right to get this stuff together. A quick tip, if you're having trouble getting this thing back together, don't forget to put this thing back because you're an idiot and you forgot. Also, if you're having trouble getting the upper to go back together properly, make sure that your charging handle is pushed all the way forward, and then this piece and everything should sit in there nicely. See, you'll hear it click like that. And then this should just go together. All right, well, that was a pain in the ass, but let's check out our new trigger. I'll put it on this way for you. Okay, safety, works. Fire. Whew, that is really nice. All right, let's try the reset. Well, the trigger is much improved. That is so much better. This is like an actual real trigger now, and not just a freaking stapler gun like it was before. Very nice, very crisp, very audible. Oh, it's so good. I could sit here doing this all day, but I won't bore you with that. I'm going to take this back apart and we're going to lube everything up, and then we're going to let the Loctite dry. And then after that, I'll give you guys a shooting demonstration. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Thanks for watching.